Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg, episode 188. Rolling right along. We're playing some Hearthstone today, specifically the Monster Hunt, which is sort of the version 2.0, I guess, of Dungeon Run. I've already finished it all. Didn't take that long. I think overall it's probably not quite as good as Dungeon Run, if only for the fact that they elected to just have 4 classes, and you know, they each have their own hero power, but still in the end it just doesn't seem like as much variety as Dungeon Run provided. But, you know, it's free and it was fun, so, okay. So yeah, over on the Exploring series, it was a banner week, to be sure. Yeah, over the last week, all of my Norse mythology videos have really just been a hot ticket item. Getting just a lot of views, a lot of new subs, comments all over the place saying, oh, I'm here for God of War and blah, 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 blah. And,
It's time for a little blood.
that was a misclick.
We're using real swords. Job's done.
And yeah, so it's just good. It's good stuff. That's how you rake in the money. So I can't complain too much.
We're using real swords. Run away! Who you want me to kill?
And so I worked on the God of War video, so that you know, it was definitely a rush job. There's no doubt about that. You know, I played through the game for the most part as quickly as I could, reasonably, while still trying to absorb as much of the story and backstory as I could. And then this week was just a flurry of writing and Friday especially was just that's not a day that I want to repeat too often. Just hours of just non-stop editing, you know, crawling through like 20 hours of video game footage just to find, like, you know, a 5-second clip of what I'm looking for to put into the video, and then, you know, repeating that over and over and over. I mean, I was working on it for like 45 minutes, and I was 4 minutes through the video. It's just like, it's gonna be a long fucking day. But, you know, it always gets done, so that's good. And, yeah, I don't think it's like the greatest video I've ever put out. But it's not like some videos where I'm repulsed by it. There are some videos where I don't even want to release it. I'm just yuck. So it's not that bad. It was decent. It fills the purpose that I wanted to. It's definitely a shallow video, you know, it's not like truly super in-depth getting into all the nitty-gritty of things, but it's for people that play God of War because they want to play God of War. They don't know anything about Norse mythology, and they're interested in learning, you know, what the differences are. And it serves that purpose.
Get in there and fight, maggot.
So yeah, it's decent, and it didn't like explode overnight. You know, it's at like 19,000 views or so right now, but it's not bad. And most of all, I'm just glad to be done with it because it's just a lot of work for 1 week. Yeah. I mean, right now, my other Norse videos are getting more views per hour than the God of War one, just because of the way YouTube promotes things. It takes a little bit of time for them to be like, oh, this is a popular video, I should put it out there. Usually that's how it works. So yeah, this week then I'm gonna be working on Rohan in Middle Earth. Going back old school. So that should be a nice little change of pace. I'm definitely definitely done with Norse mythology for a while. I put away my books and I just shuffle it to the back of my head. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
People will love me once Athara sways.
Overall, I guess it was a good week. You know, if I was just if I had to do all that work and it was just wallowing with no views and I was not, you know, the Norse videos weren't getting views, it would probably be a pretty shitty week. But you know, I've been gaining like 500 subs a day on average, so I can't complain that much. But, you know, it's a bummer when I get a flood of subs at the end of a series.
Get in there and fight, maggot.
But that's how it is. That's how I do things. Yeah. So that's that. Over on this channel, though, God of War is not going anywhere. Got plenty more of those to upload.
You're not in?
It's not a super long LP. Let me just take a gander. Let's see, where are we? Where are we? I just uploaded this one. So we have 12 more to upload. Yeah, I guess that's decently long. That's like 18 parts. Yeah, okay. Well, whatever. It's gonna continue.
The dam stand ready.
So there's that. There's, of course, Final Fantasy VII. I don't know how much of that we have left. Let's see, I just uploaded that part, I think. Okay, we only have probably 6 more parts. So that'll probably get done next week, or the following week. And then we move on to Final Fantasy VIII, which is a lot. That's like 24 parts. Final Fantasy IX is 27 parts, I think, by my count here. 10, of course, is a lengthy bit of 24 parts. Twelve seems to be 20 parts. 12 was really short, to be honest. And then 13 is about 24 parts. Seems to be kind of the average. But then Final Fantasy 15, shockingly, is only 14 parts. Because that game has so much more side content than main content, which is very different than a regular Final Fantasy game. And so if you just focus on main content, yeah, you can get through it pretty quickly. And then we have 4 more parts for Final Fantasy 3 that I have to put up there, and then we're done. So that'll only be, you know, like 6 more months. Anyways, it's good stuff. Also this week we had a roll manging, of course, but we also had a second roll manging. For me to talk about Godbound. And there's going to be plenty more of those.
I can't decide.
Let's get
You know, Godbound is a game that it's one of those that I've probably seen mentioned a few times. Like, here and there on, like, the RPG subreddit and things like that. People have mentioned Godbound. They just, like, drop the name. Like, oh, yeah, Godbound. And my eyes probably just glazed over it, and I didn't really give it any thought. And then suddenly, one time, somebody says something, you know, mentions it or something like that, and I decide that I'm bored enough or whatever it is, and I just look into it, and then I read the whole book, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. That's just kind of how it goes. And of course you pick the weapon treasure, and then you don't get a single fucking weapon. God damn it. Yeah, so, you know, with all the comic book movies, especially, and playing God of War, you know, and having that, like, that opening fight, well, somewhat opening, between Kratos and the Stranger, and it's just so cinematic, and, you know, this is what it's like for gods to fight each other. It's just like, yeah! You know, flying through trees and just smashing giant rocks and stuff on each other. It's just incredible, and it's like, yeah, here's an RPG designed around stuff like that. Yeah, so it's an OSR game, which I was surprised to learn that, because I've been very wary of OSR games that want to sort of romanticize this really old school D&D style, like just numbers and tables. Normally I'm pretty wary of that because I like narrative games so much. But Godbound is a little bit different, and I'm really liking what I'm reading so far. I can't wait to run it. I can't wait especially to play it, hopefully.
I live to serve the Lich King.
So, we're probably gonna finish Sprawl in 1 or 2 sessions. That's interesting.
we're using real swords.
Oh, but that pushes it over there. That doesn't work. Fuck. I messed all that up. Anyways, yeah, Ziggy said 2 more sessions. But, you know, anytime a DM ever says, like, when he plans to finish it, it's always 1 more session. I'm not, like, hoping for that.
I am freed from the curse.
Yeah, if we get 2 more sessions out of it, I think that would be solid. Because there's still plenty of stuff to do. That's no good.
Be thirsty. Back to work.
Well, right, just give me a second.
Take this blade.
I think there's definitely content for 2 sessions, but Ziggy's been DMing for a while, and I've been telling him a lot about Godbound, and, you know, I told him I plan to run a one-shot of Godbound once he's done with Sprawl. So, you know, if he's tired of DMing, he definitely has an incentive to stop.
Take this blade.
So, I don't know. I don't know if tomorrow will be the last session of Sprawl or not. Otherwise, it'll be probably, absolutely, I would say, next week. But yes, I plan to run a nice little adventure, pre-written one for Godbound, involving like the default continent of Godbound is split into a number of different regions, of course, and they all vary quite a bit. It's a pretty varied continent. And so the adventure, the pre-written one, takes place in sort of like this, like the Chinese-inspired part of the continent. And so, you know, there's a lot of like, Chinese names and concepts, and Taoism is a concept in the region and stuff like that. So basically, it's like you know, for like a D&D pre-written adventure, you might have you know, it might be a little bit railroaded, or you might just have like a bunch of like little side stuff, and you'd have like one major plot line and stuff like that, and or you know, for just like a one shot, you know, it's generally not that complicated. But a one shot for Godbound has like 4 major plot things that they can encounter, because you know, any one of those they could solve in like 45 minutes. And so if that's all you got, you're done. So you need to have like 4 things. It's like, okay, that probably can take up a night or 2. So it involves you know, slavery and secret experiments in immortality. It involves like a peasant revolt and like some god that lives in the forest, and an army of bandits and stuff like that. So there's all these different things. It's really, I think, a good introductory one, because it allows them to deal with some sort of moral issues. It allows them to deal with problems that just can't be solved by just taking their bloody fists and smashing it into everybody's face. But it also gives some more higher end combat. between, you know, other sort of powerful figures, and it also potentially has some combat against like a big group of mortal enemies. You know, so like, you know, 60 men against a few gods. So there's a lot of different situations like that they can encounter, and so I think it's a pretty good, solid adventure. I didn't see that many pre-written adventures for Godbound. It's just because it's meant to be just sort of a sandbox thing. But this is the one that I found that I thought looked pretty good. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. They're probably just gonna try and slaughter everybody, but you know, if you try and just slaughter everyone and just be the villain straight out, yeah, you'll probably slaughter a lot of people, but eventually, you know, the Emperor is gonna send his royal army at you, and you know, you'll either have to go into like hiding or you'll be taken down. So yeah, it should be pretty good. And so hopefully after that, at some point, I don't know if Ziggy will immediately jump on it to run or something like that. He's been DMing quite a bit, so I don't know what'll happen, but yeah. Yeah, the responsibility is usually on me to introduce a new system, which is fine, I understand. Yeah. So, I guess, that will segue us into the Sprawl. You know, these last few sessions here of the Sprawl, of this mayoral campaign thing, it's really mostly based around the other guys. Like, I'm really not doing that much because I'm just trying to run this campaign, and, you know, I can give them instructions, I can give them advice, things like that, but a lot of the times I'm not there. I'm not doing the jobs with them. I'm not roughing up people or, you know, going to get loans. You know, I'm not handling things directly. Just because I don't want to... My goal, Doug's goal, is to become mayor. So it just wouldn't make sense for me to jeopardize that just for me to get involved and hands-on. And yes, normally I am a very hands-on player.
One day, I'll be a real knight.
So it's certainly a little bit different for me. And it's not something that I would like to do long term. You know, if this was the whole campaign and I had like 10 more sessions ahead of me where I wasn't doing much, that would be definitely a bummer for me. But since this is such a unique concept, you know, I'm never really gonna do this again, most likely. I'm willing to give up a few sessions of crazy, fun, explosive time just so I can say that I've done this.
Enjoy raiding.
So yeah, really, I guess my only entertainment during these sessions is just to watch how much these guys are just fucking everything up. So, I'm trying to even remember what the hell happened.
from the curse.
Let's see.
High time.
You know, when I'm not directly involved, I don't pay attention. Let's see here. So, we ended off with me getting stabbed by the prostitute. I know that for a fact. And
Take this blade.
obviously I was able to spin that in a positive way. For me, the prostitution crime is just out of control. And I think I did like an interview for some news station while I was in the hospital. And yeah, we did some press related things. Oh, all right. So we started planning a parade. That's what we did.
Back to work.
And so basically the idea came from real life. Pretty much all of our ideas, or my ideas, for this whole thing comes from the last presidential election. So there was a thing with like an effigy of Hillary that was put in like some cage and was driven down the street in like a parade. So I was like, oh, we should do that. We should have a parade, and we'll put an effigy of the current mayor in a cage, and we'll just have a big parade that ends at Golk's Pizzeria, and we'll have just a big party there. So we started planning that and doing all sorts of stuff with that, and we've got a lot of other little things involved. You know, my backstory, my business dealings, that's all being fabricated. The websites are being created. We took out... Yeah, we took out my competitor within my own party. You know, they're the Freedom First candidate or whatever. We were able to dig up some sort of like some dirt that she's had some like dirty dealings with corporations, and so my campaign manager found some like emails that painted her in a very bad light, and so the boys were sent to go retrieve these emails, but of course they were followed. And so there was a shootout in the apartment complex that ended decently well. They took out all the guys, and it seemed all right. I don't know if that's a good situation. So that, I mean, they handled themselves. In combat, usually they do alright. It's just their decisions that lead them to combat that really cause the problems. So we were able to sort of release these emails, or we threatened to release them. She bowed out or whatever. bottom line is she's out of the running. So I'm in a pretty good position at that point. So then we had... we had this situation of...
Completely thirsty.
Armor made to fit.
What the hell was the situation? Alright, so we needed security for this parade. You know, we needed some group that was going to keep everything under control, you know, not get any sort of troublemakers, things like that. Keep it nice and clean. And so we figured, you know, the easiest, best way to do this would be to just have the gang.
I am freed from the curse.
Strike.
It's very tempting, but it's just no good. To hire, use the gang that we've made this alliance with, and use them to run security. And so they went to them, told them of this plan, and they said, you know, we'll do this, but also we set up a whole hats distribution. We ordered, you know, like 20,000 Make New York Great Again hats, and we also wanted the gang to distribute them for us, deliver them to homes, and, you know, deliver them to people that order them, all sorts of stuff like that. Just handle the whole distribution aspect. And so they agreed on the condition that we take care of a small problem for them. Basically, because it had to do with the old pizzeria. One of the pizzerias that Big Marco owned. They wanted, there was some mutoid men using it as like their hangout. And this was unacceptable to the Yankees. And so they wanted us to take care of it. Now, however we took care of things, that's what they wanted. And so, you know, if I hadn't stepped in and provided some handy advice, yeah, they would have just charged in there. They would have shot everything up. They probably would have survived, but they would be in worse shape, and, you know, they'd kill all the mutoid men, and it would be done. But there's no finesse to that. There's no creativity with that. It's not the way I like to do things. And I know this is about them, you know, taking the reins of a campaign and doing things their way, which, you know, doesn't happen that often.
Enjoy raiding. I strike.
But I thought I'd provide some friendly advice.
My pack will hunt you down.
And so we basically set up sort of this triple plan where Jesus Christ. All right, wipe the board, man. So they were going to go in and try and talk to the mutoid men. And they were going to try and convince the Mutoid Men that they should start showing up at rallies for the current mayor. You know, the current mayor is, of course, campaigning and doing rallies and stuff like that. And so the Mutoid Men should show up to rallies, just make their presence known, because really nobody likes the mutants. Nobody likes Mutoid Men. They're horrific to look at, and they're generally just criminals and horrible, horrible people. Jesus Christ, where did that come from? Oh, fucking portal. Yuck.
I am freed from the curse.
Well, that's no good. Oh shit, I needed to echo that. Oh, redo. Redo. Oh, that could have been incredible. Oh man, I'm so stupid. It's because I'm thinking about Mutoid Men. Damn you, Mutoids. Yeah, so we want the, that's pretty good, but I can get more value if I just... Okay. We want the Mutoid Men at the rallies to, you know, as if they're supporting the current mayor, and he's just, you know, he's just the best guy around because he really, he loves Mutoid Men and they love him. And so they have to convince these Mutoid Men to leave the current premises. That was the goal for the Yankees, is that they want them out of this pizzeria. And so it's really a well-concocted plan all around, but in order to convince the Mutoid Men to leave, we tell them that they are allowed to stay at the apartment complex. They can have full run of the whole place, you know, for as long as they want, as long as they keep showing up at rallies. And we of course told them that this is all them doing, but that they were representing the current mayor, you know, so it wasn't like some duplicitous thing. It's just like, oh, we want your support at the rally, we want your presence there. You know, the mayor really desires it. And so if you come to rallies, you can have full run of this apartment complex, and you can have any room you want. And so they did agree to this. They thought, oh, this sounds great. There's no way these people are trying to trick us or anything. And so they packed up that night to go to the apartment complex. And now our plan is, after like a week or a couple weeks, we're gonna like show up in SWAT gear and stuff like that. And we're gonna just run a raid on the apartment complex and take out all the Mutoid Men, solving that problem. And then we're gonna, you know, release like a press release or whatever that the Mutoid Men were squatting in this apartment complex and doing all sorts of criminal activity and things like that. And so SWAT came in and solved the problem. So yeah. Because it's funny, because the original plan for the apartment complex was to make it into like the building from the raid, and we were going to be at the top of, you know, we were going to like run this place and it was going to be our fortress. But now I like this plan so much because it allows us to be on the other side of it, and we're going to be the ones doing the raid, but it's going to be successful. It'll be fun. And allows me to actually, you know, load up in full SWAT gear and be be the man I want to be. Yeah. So so that's pretty much it. We're, you know, they moved into the apartment complex. We plan to do the parade like first thing in the next session. And it should be a fun time.
I enjoy raiding.
It should be pretty good with Echo. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Basically, it pretty much comes down to either I become mayor or I die before then. Those are the end conditions for this campaign. We'll see what happens first. Yeah, alright, we get it, man. Jesus Christ. You can't win. Good job. You happy? Too bad you don't have death coil. Get booked. Anyways. I guess that's about it for that. Not much else to say. I guess the last notable thing to talk about would be the Avengers. Saw the Avengers opening night. And yeah, it was pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, I gotta say. It lived up to the hype. And obviously one of the big concerns was how were they going to juggle that many characters, you know, how are they going to handle that many plot lines and things like that. And I thought they did a really good job. You know, it felt more like a Game of Thrones episode where you're constantly bouncing around different parts of the continent and stuff like that and dealing with all these different characters. It kind of felt like that at times. But the pace was very good. I never felt bored, or, you know, I never felt that the hours really went by pretty damn quickly. And it was a funny movie. There was a lot of funny quotes and fun moments. But then also, you know, they definitely handled the serious parts really well. And so it's tough to juggle. And I thought they did a pretty great job.
We're using real swords.
I don't know how much I really want to say that isn't spoilers. It was just really, really great to see all these characters come together. You know, we've spent years building up these different characters. You know, we've had Guardians of the Galaxy, you've had Iron Man for so long, we've had Thor for so long, Captain America, and so having them all interact together in different ways, in different situations, and you're not bogging it down by being too serious most of the time. But also you're throwing at them like the most serious situation they've ever had. Jesus, I'm done. I'm done.
I have an axe to grind.
Yeah, it was good. Thor especially was very great. You know, Thor, the first two Thor movies, I don't know, I like never rewatched them. They just really disappointed and bored me because I know how badass Thor can be, and those two movies just did not bring the thunder. As far as I'm concerned. But then Thor Ragnarok came out, and I was like, wow. See, Thor can be really badass and awesome, and this is great. And then he continued that badassery in Infinity War. And so now Thor is where he is where he should be, as one of the, or really, yeah, one of the most powerful Avengers, and very clearly so. On the flip side, though, the Hulk, which is my favorite Marvel character, yeah, it was not exactly Hulk's movie. I'll put it that way. I think in the next one, he very much could be a huge part of it. But this one was a bit more based around Bruce Banner. And I got nothing against Bruce. You know, if you like the Hulk, you gotta like Bruce. But I think if you see the movie, you understand what I'm talking about. The Hulk is not really in it, and you gotta have some good Hulk moments. You know, when everybody else really gets to shine and do all these awesome, badass action sequences, and the Hulk kind of gets left out. That was a little bit of a bummer for me. Not that that's a spoiler. I don't really want to go into it or anything like that. I guess it's more like if you're a huge Hulk fan, just sort of temper your expectations. But anyways, I guess I really do have to mention a few spoilers, because there's just some things I really want to say. So if you don't want to be spoiled by Avengers, then I bid you adieu. I'll see you next week. But for those that have already seen it or don't care, you know, Thor lost his hammer. He lost Mjolnir in the last movie, in Ragnarok. It was broken, which was spoiled in the trailers, I believe, which is just really lame. That's just lame. I just, you know, I love trailers as like an art form. You know, I've made plenty of trailers. I just like the art form of trailers, but as just a vehicle for spoiling movies before you see it, I just can't stand them. So I never watch trailers unless I'm forced to by sitting in a theater. But anyways, so he lost Mjolnir. He was without a weapon, and he's got to have a weapon. Thor needs to have a weapon. And so he goes to this space forge, which is run by dwarves. And so there we meet Atri, played by Peter Dinklage. And he's playing a dwarf, but he's playing he's like a massive dwarf. He's like 25 feet tall or something. It's pretty funny, because it's Peter Dinklage, who is, you know, actually a dwarf. And so it's a pretty cool sequence of them making him a new weapon and relighting the dying star that you know, fuels this whole thing, or powers the whole thing. And so they make him an axe. Thor's new weapon is an axe. And there's like he can, it's just like Mjolnir, you can throw it and it comes back to his hand. And so playing God of War constantly for like the last week or so, where you have this axe that you can throw and bring back to your hand immediately, and its style, it's based off Mjolnir in Norse mythology. And then coming to this movie and seeing them make an axe that he can throw, and it's just, I don't know if that's a coincidence. I know in the comics, before Thor had Mjolnir, he had like that axe, and it was pretty badass. But then he got Mjolnir, and obviously that's like one of the greatest artifacts to ever exist. So I know in the movie that's what they were going for, although it's in a little bit of a flip direction. But I don't know where God of War got the inspiration or the idea to have this axe that you can throw and come back to. Maybe it's just like an obvious thing, I guess. And it's just sort of a coincidence that's how it both worked out. With the release dates so close to each other, I thought it was just really funny. But Atri, the dwarf, is of course a character in Norse mythology, who's also known as Sindri, who is in God of War. Brocker, is not in the movie. I don't know if he's in the comics or not, but in the movie, Atri is like the last surviving dwarf. So yeah, that was fun. And yeah, Thor, absolute badass when he gets to Wakanda. Just, that's the Thor I like to see. What else did I really want to discuss? Yeah, but Hulk not being a... The part that bothers me is, like, it seems like Hulk does not want to come out throughout the movie. Like, he does not appear, even though Bruce is desperately trying to make him come out. Because the Hulk is afraid of Thanos. That's what it seems like, right? Why else wouldn't he come out? And it's just really strange, because I'm pretty sure in the comics it's like the other way around. Like, Thanos is a little bit afraid of the Hulk. Because he's the fucking Hulk, man. He's got that limitless power kind of thing going on. But at the start of the movie, Hulk just gets fucking jobbed. He just gets wrecked by Thanos in an instant. Like, he doesn't even get angry. He's just like, oh, I'm done. and then that's it. And that's it. So yeah, that's a disappointment. It's always nice to see the Hulkbuster come back, because I think that is pretty badass. But he didn't really do that much in the Hulkbuster, and it was okay. I mean, he did get to take out the one guy with it. I guess that was good. But anyways, they definitely seem to have changed a lot of the plot. In the comics, from what I understand, Thanos' goal with the whole Infinity Gauntlet and things like that is to impress Death, the mistress Death. So he's trying to court her and stuff like that. And so he's trying to impress her. And so I think when he snaps his fingers and he wipes out half of all life in the galaxy, that's just like when he first gets like the power, like that's like his demonstration of like, look at my power, blah blah. But in the movie, that's his entire goal, is to wipe out half of all life, as like an altruistic thing. That's how life must persevere. Overpopulation is basically the problem. And so he's just doing it from a purely like altruistic point of view in his mind, which is a very sort of like Doctor Doom world kind of thing, where he's the only one that can provide a future for all life, and so he's got to do these terrible things, and he will suffer the guilt of doing this, but he has to do it because he's an altruist. And so I guess that's fine, but it's just like, you know, they sort of teased the alternative when they first, like, brought in Thanos. I think it was at the end of the Avengers or something like that. When his, like, little toady was like, you know, to do this is to court death. And then Thanos, like, smiles at the camera and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, you know, they're really going to go for that. That he's courting death. He's trying to appease death as, like... And they're going to introduce death as an actual character. But no, they didn't go that route. And so... You know, at the end of the movie, of course, he snaps his fingers, and half of all life everywhere dies out. In a pretty, you know, serious, touching moment. The problem is, of course, it's not... Like, there's no real impact to it. Like, when I think, like, the first one that dies is, like, Bucky. And so I thought, at that moment, I was like, fuck. Because it's believable to me that they could kill off Bucky. Like, they sort of just brought him back. But it's like, you know, Bucky is not, like, a main, major character. And, yeah, he could come back in, like, 6-8 movies or something like that. But for a while, he could be dead. And that was believable. And I was like, oh, fuck, Bucky. Because I really like him. But then they kill off Black Panther, and I'm like, alright, none of this matters. None of this matters. This is all going to be reversed. This is just cheap. This is just really cheap, like, emotional pulling that doesn't have any impact. Because there's no way they're killing off Black Panther. He just had one of the most successful movies, you know, that they have. He's got his next one lined up, or, like, it's just, it doesn't matter. And, you know, when you're reading comic books, you know that most of the time, nothing really matters. Characters don't stay dead and things like that. Like, you know that, and like I said, I know Bucky can come back, and he probably would, but it would be a while, I think. It's sort of this temporary thing. But with Black Panther, he's gonna be back in the next movie. Like, that's nothing. This is nothing. So, yeah. I think it would have been a lot better if they just sort of left it unseen. Like, what if they ended the movie right when he snapped? And then you're like, oh, fuck, he did it. Because they build that up to the whole movie. Like, they mentioned, like, I think multiple times that he's like, he can snap his fingers and wipe out half of all life. Like, they mentioned the snap a few times. So you know, like, oh, that could happen. So you end the movie right on the snap, and you're like, oh, what the fuck? That's a cliffhanger. Here it's just like, oh my god, what is this? This is all going to be reversed and fixed and blah, 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 blah. I mean, yeah, it's still bad. It obviously, they have an impetus to fix this. But it's like, okay, we all know there's a second movie coming. We all know this isn't done. So why... I would have ended it on the snap, personally. I think that would have been cooler. I mean, in the next movie, sure, if you still want, you can kill off all these characters that you know are going to come back immediately. If that's what you want to do. But at least this way, I think you'd have a better ending. This felt... I mean, you would have missed out on, like Spider-Man, like, pleading with Tony Stark. You know, he doesn't want to go, and as he fades away. Like, yeah, it's definitely touching and, like, oh, fuck. But, yeah, whatever. Whatever. I don't make movies. I'm sure there were other things, but yeah, there's a lot of funny moments. You know, the big one that I thought was going to be really huge for a long time was Peter Quill meeting Tony Stark. I thought that was just going to be this legendary clash of characters, and it was pretty funny. Tony Stark calling him a dipshit is just that'll be funny for a while. But probably the funnier part was Peter Quill meeting Thor, which I never imagined would be that funny. But Thor has really become a comedic character, surprisingly. Chris Hemsworth is a talented comedic actor, apparently. So that was a lot of fun. There was just a lot of fun moments, and like I said, the hours just sort of flew by. It was way better than Age of Ultron. So yeah, I liked it. I honestly really thought Hawkeye was going to be in that movie. I mean, I know he wasn't on the poster at all. This was obviously a discussed thing, but I really thought he would just make an appearance right at the end or something like that. I thought he would just show up in like even like a little cameo where he fires an arrow and to save somebody's life, and he's like, you know, he makes some little quip, and that's it. I thought he was going to be just even for that, but no, he was not in a second of that film. But he was mentioned. He was mentioned as being with Ant-Man. So I think he might be in... He might not be in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because that takes place during Civil War, I think. Or after Civil War. Or before Civil War. I don't remember. They've mentioned that. Anyways, yeah. It was a good movie. Looking forward to Ant-Man. Hopefully that's a little bit better than the first. Not that the first one was that bad. And then I think there's like, well, there's Deadpool coming out, which should be a hell of a lot of fun. And then I think the next Marvel movie after that is like Captain Marvel, which of course they teased at the very end of Avengers. I don't really know anything about Captain Marvel. She's like Marvel's version of Superman, I think, right? She can like fly and she's strong and stuff. It'll be interesting to see what Marvel does with a character like that in film version. But yeah, DC is just sort of wallowing in filth. What are they doing? What are they doing? Alright, so anyways, I'm not going to tell you to check out an exploring video tomorrow because I released it on Friday to get those sweet weekend views. We got more God of War videos coming. We got some more Final Fantasy coming. And there's probably going to be some role manging this week. So, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.